Welcome, I'm Donald McCorkindale, the business convener for Clèir Eilean Ì, Highlands and Hebrides. And over the coming weeks, I'm going to be in conversation with a few of the key folk around the Presbytery, an opportunity to get to know one another. And I'm delighted that the first guest in this series is Lizzie Brayshaw. And well, I'll let Lizzie introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her work in the Presbytery. Over to you, Lizzie.
Thank you. So I'm Lizzie and I am under 40s advisor I serve the Argyll area in local mission, but I'm also a part of Presbytery with mission committee and mission support as well. I started the role in January, so I'm only, I think Clèir Eilean Ì had been formed 7 days before I started. So yeah, very much so a Clèir Eilean Ì person.
Brilliant. Tell me, what really excites you? What are you passionate about for Clèir Eilean Ì?
I think the big thing for me is the ability to sort of share ideas and be able to make connections over such a large area. Although we do have sort of bigger areas, we have some towns, and obviously we have Inverness as a city. The majority of the Presbytery is rural, and I think that sort of has a bit of a unique challenge, especially with mission to the under 40s. There's not many under 40s in rural areas. And I think this just sort of, more broadly speaking, just in a number of ways, lets us make connections that otherwise wouldn't have been possible, which is really exciting for me. I've met a lot of people that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to meet. That has been really useful. And I'm really excited to see how things go further. I mean, I already know that so many initiatives have been started, which are really fantastic. And if that's already in the first 4 months, I think it's going to go really good places.
Yeah. Hopefully there are some of those young people around. I know often around the church we use the label under 40s, but what's the best label, and what would you want to say to any of these young folk who are watching this video just now?
Well, I absolutely think sort of under 40s is maybe the term used most commonly, but I think even when we're talking people who are under 60, under 50, sort of, you're talking people that are likely sometimes the youngest people in their church, potentially by a few years. And I sort of grew up in the Church of Scotland, so I really do know what that experience of being the youngest person in the church can feel like. I think I would say to other people who feel like that way, there are other people definitely throughout the Presbytery. And it's definitely a commonly shared experience. And I'm just sort of hoping to maybe bring together people that already are existing within the church who are under 40, and also sort of encourage people who maybe haven't interacted with the church before, of that sort of age range. Again, I think under 40 is a useful term in terms of the generations that really aren't within the church at all, but it sort of extends to people, I would say, that are just feel maybe that sort of age gap already existing within the church.
Well, thank you for reminding me that I'm definitely not in the category. I do think of myself as an under 40 with 20 years experience. Had you been online for the last Presbytery meeting? Have you experienced Presbytery online?
I have, yes. That was, I think the last Presbytery meeting was my first one. So I think it was really interesting to see how that played out. I mean, I was quite like amazed by just how many people were in the list of participants. And yeah, I mean, I think I'm looking forward to when Presbytery can all meet up in person. I think that'll be really exciting. But I think the fact that we can do online is really useful, not just in terms of, I mean, it's by necessity for such a large presbytery, but also a lot of people might not be able to make presbytery if it was in person, even if it's not that far away, maybe because of health reasons, childcare reasons. So yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it.
Excellent. If you could invite anyone, living or deceased, to come along to a presbytery gathering and share some thoughts with us, who might that be?
Well, I suppose the obvious answer would be Jesus, but to be honest, I would say as a mission person, my great inspiration would probably be Paul. Maybe that's a very sort of grand decision of who I would like to invite, but I would be very interested as to know what he would think of how we're doing things now. And yeah, I just think that he was probably the first widespread missionary sort of. I think he would offer some useful insights into that sort of thing.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. So how do you see that we might be able to connect more widely with the younger folk around the presbytery area?
Well, one of the things that I'm really inspired by is social media. I think that it's something that the church could definitely utilize better for under 40 specifically. And I think that the presbytery would be a great sort of medium for doing that. I would say that social media is probably the modern day marketplace, and that's probably where we want to be. That's sort of where the future is heading. I do recognize that there are problems with social media. It is by no means something that that we should trust blindly or not go in. We should be going in aware. There's sort of issues of misinformation, and there are difficulties with it, but that doesn't mean that I think the church shouldn't approach it. And especially with under 40s, it's just a missed opportunity if we don't engage on social media and sort of different platforms and just try things out, make our presence known, tell people what we're about, what sort of Christians in the Highlands and Hebrides, who are we, what do we do, and just sort of make that initial connection. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I'm sure that Paul would have used Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, whatever. In one of his letters, he does say about using whatever means to reach people with the gospel. And yeah, 21st century communication, very different from the first century, and we must embrace all of that. Yeah, if there are folk watching this who are thinking we want to know more about what Lizzie's doing and how we connect with her, how do folk find you on social media or whatever?
Well, I am on Facebook. I've not posted yet in the Clèir Eilean Ì Presbytery Facebook page, but I think that's a great way if you're able to find me. Probably best way to reach me is by email, and I am reasonably quick to respond, I like to think. It definitely won't be more than a few days. But I'm always more than happy to talk about social media. I think it's so important. I think Baseline is a Facebook page. I think it's like a few billion Facebook accounts there are. So yeah, I'm always more. I'm very happy. have good knowledge of most social media platforms as well.
Excellent, excellent. Is there an exciting story, a good news story from your work that you can share with us as we finish off?
Absolutely. So I've whilst I'm in the beginning stages of work in Argyll, I have been using my home church as a bit of a guinea pig for trying out engaging with the under 40s. And a few weeks ago, we've been doing, well, for a few months, we've been doing a midweek service aimed at people that maybe don't necessarily have the time on a Sunday morning to go to church. And we've sort of framed it as a sort of casual, sort of more discussion-based service. And we typically maybe get 4 people, including myself. But I think it was last week, we tried out a new way of doing the service where we it was a sort of storytelling the gospel sort of model, and it had sort of questions, and we ended up with 8 people that came, a few people that don't manage to get to church on a normal Sunday morning, someone from a different church who obviously goes to their own church on a Sunday, and someone who was just a tourist and just so happened to come in because they saw the sign. And we had like really very interesting discussions. There was 8 of us there, and that might seem really small, but for us it was such a blessing, and it was really enjoyable. And it just sort of shows that doing church in a different way can be really fruitful at times.
Yeah, I can certainly agree with that. Where I am, lots of small communities, and we've been doing some different things. And yeah, it's often those small gatherings where there really is that deepest sense of worship and ministry. I'm sure conversations are much more 21st century than 15-minute sermons. Lizzie, it's been delightful to have a conversation with you and to hear of your work. Thank you for sharing your story, your enthusiasm, and look forward to hearing more in the days to come. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed.